All right, welcome back to the Be a Man podcast, where we encourage men to be better men. I'm excited for this talk tonight. Why don't you introduce yourself, man? Who are you? What do you do? What Instagram, all that kind of stuff do you run? Let us hear it.
Yeah, great. Well, thanks, Justin, for having me on. This is awesome. Uh, really honored to be on your show. So, my name is Dave Mills. I also go by Goose, so we can get into that later. There's a whole thing about that, but so I'm the director of Men's Alliance, and our social media, everything. Our handle is Men's Alliance Tribe. men'salliancetribe.com is our website. And that's how I met you, was through Instagram,
Mhm.
just following other like-minded Christian guys in doing men's ministry. So Men's Alliance is tribes of men around the nation who meet weekly for outdoor 30-minute workout in any weather, followed by 30-minute real-world devotion around a fire. So very simple, right? It's so simple, only a guy could come up with it. And and there's no it's very difficult to break it, right? You got to really try to mess it up. So it's very simple. It's rugged outdoor workouts with tires and hammers and sandbags. And then it's just sitting around a fire being real about whatever we're going through in life that week, our victories and our struggles. So that's our ministry. Is we try to plant tribes. Most of them are affiliated with local churches. So we're a parachurch organization, but we partner with local churches that we're a plug and play men's ministry that they can start at their church. So most of our tribes are at churches, but occasionally we have guys who really are passionate, on fire, want to start a Men's Alliance tribe in their area. And for whatever reason, their church is not open to that. Or sometimes the guy doesn't really have a good church. And so we start churches in people's yards, at
Mhm.
American Legion posts, in
Mhm.
city parks. We even have a tribe in Chesterfield County Jail that meets there. So
Okay.
that's the tribe you don't want to be in, but if
Yeah.
you happen to be there, it's there for you. But so we don't exclusively partner with churches, but most of our tribes are at churches. So also, we do a weekly podcast as
Mhm.
well, where we just try to just talk about, just like you do, relevant men's issues that are going on the week. So yeah, I got out of the Air Force. It's just been just a little over a year. I did 20 years Air Force,
Wow.
and now I get to wake up every day and just do men's ministry. And so I love it. It's what I feel like God put me here to do. So we pull a lot of the culture and the
Mhm.
traditions from the military that I learned from being in flying squadrons for years. And that's where we bring in things like call signs. All right. So
Yes.
guys in Men's Alliance, they get call signs. We earn challenge coins.
Awesome.
Like they have for every unit in the military, we have a challenge coin. And the way a guy earns that is he has to lead a workout and lead a devotion, as well as memorize our creed. And then we also have a patch. And so the guy earns his Men's Alliance patch by going through
Cool.
a several month long discipleship training program that is designed to not only make the guy a better leader, but a better ambassador for Christ. And we do that with a
Awesome.
lot of what I would call real world apologetics. It's just designed to help, really, dads a lot, help dads be able to explain what it is they believe, why they believe it, to equip their kids. It's kind of like dinner table apologetics, right? And if we can
Mhm.
create these cultures in our homes where we bring out the questions in our kids, instead of
Mhm.
telling them,
Yeah.
you shouldn't ask that, just have faith, we're the opposite. We're like, don't you wonder if this stuff's true? How do we know it? And the kids
Mhm.
are like, yeah, I do. So we want to draw out their questions and then provide them with amazing answers. part of my passion behind this is, the statistics. I'm sure about, 70% of kids who go into college professing to be Christians leave college saying they're not a Christian.
Mm-hmm.
So your odds, think about this, your odds of graduating college as a Christian are higher if you didn't go in as a Christian. That's really sad.
Yes, it is.
And I think that's a commentary on both dads and men and families, and also on local churches as well. We're just not training our dads. We're not and the dads in turn are not training their kids. There's an awful lot of fun, a lot of games, a lot of good times happening. And then, you play a lot of dodgeball and eat a lot of pizza, and then you go to State University X, where they tell you that science has already disproven God, and a host of other bumper sticker lines like that.
Mm-hmm.
And you get these kids coming home their first Thanksgiving break freshman year, and they're like, I think I'm an atheist now. So that's a big part of what Men's Alliance is here for. It's we do the workouts, but we're not a workout group. That's just our icebreaker, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the real bulk of what you don't see below the surface is this practical apologetics. It's the coin, it's the patch, it's training men to better lead their families. So that was way more of an answer than
Dude, that's awesome.
than you bargained for right there.
Hey, that's really good. I'm glad you went into it because, I mean, guys have questions like, what are you guys doing? What are you about? They want to know before you got to have something that sparks their interest. And I think that really does. And I think if people are looking for a tribe, best place is to go to the website. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. men'salliancetribe.com. If you click on tribe on the top there, we got a map. It'll show you if there's a tribe near you. If there's not, you can click on start one. And just this past year, we started offering this brand new experience we call Start the Fire. And that's just become a real incredible game changer there for men who don't live near a tribe. So if you're listening to this, you look at the map, you're like, there's not one around me. You can come to one of our Start the Fire weekends, and it's like a shot of espresso version of Men's Alliance, packed into one incredible weekend where we do the workouts, the devotions, the fires. We do a host of other unforgettable things, very rugged, very outdoors. We will not put you indoors and give you PowerPoint ever, right? And there's no singing. So for guys, I tried to, that's another thing about it, and there's nothing wrong with singing.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to create a men's ministry that was different from everything else out there. And, doing this for a couple years, I've certainly found a lot of men who love God, want to be good husbands and fathers, but they're just not really comfortable with the atmosphere, the environment in a lot of churches. They find it, they just can't fit in there. It's just, square peg, round hole thing. And we find that when we get guys outdoors around a fire and we tell them, hey, listen, we're not going to make you sing. We're not going to make you introduce yourself to your neighbor or anything weird or awkward. It's an environment that we're just we're designed for, in my opinion. So, that's a little bit of also how we're different.
We could go down a rabbit trail there about the feminization of our churches too. And which
for
is
sure.
a very big issue right now. And I'm not sure exactly when it happened, but it definitely happened at some point. And I think it's rubbed a lot of guys the wrong way. And I think you would agree by what you're saying here. Where are you guys? Where are you located? Central.
Yeah. So we're based out of Richmond, Virginia.
Okay.
That's where I'm at. I'm in Midlothian, which is kind of a suburb of Richmond.
Okay. Yeah. So East Coast type deal. Okay. I wasn't sure. So if guys are interested, they can kind of get an idea of where you guys are kind of located and go out from there. But I've got a few questions based on what you were saying there. And one is, I've never asked this of any vets I've had on, but
Awesome.
How did you find the meshing of your service in the military with your faith? Was it challenging? Was it difficult? Was it
Mm.
something you had to kind of learn as you went along, or explain that process? And I know I'm throwing that at you, but I've just it hit me as you were talking there.
So my answer to that is it's really not going to be a good answer, um, because two thoughts for you. First of all, um, the Air Force that I joined 21 years ago no longer exists, and the Air Force that I retired from is radically different from the one that I commissioned into.
I'm sure.
So there's that. So the part of me feels like however I were to answer you would be based on old data that anybody who's joining this year or next year would find to be irrelevant. But the bigger, more important part of my answer to that is I wasn't living for Christ when I was in the military, so I wouldn't even know.
Mm,
Sadly, I hate to say that. I wasted a lot of years. Um, I really went all in, gave my life to Christ, became born again Christian 9 years ago.
mm,
So, those last several years in the Air Force, I was living as a Christian, but at that point, I was I was the old guy at the desk in a staff assignment. I wasn't a crew dog flying and deploying anymore. When I was in those earlier days, you know, unfortunately, I didn't live for Christ,
yeah.
and didn't. If anybody from my earlier years in the Air Force is listening to me or hears about that I'm in the ministry right now, I'm sure they're pretty shocked. So not the best answer you were looking for, but um, you know, my 16-year-old, he wants to go into the Army, and I know what is feeling. I know what he's wanting. Right? I was the same way when I was 16, wanting to go into the military, and I'm like, we got a lot of guys in Men's Alliance who are in the military, but I wonder what's it going to be like for my son. It's a completely woke military now,
Mhm.
um, and I really hope that over the next couple of years uh, and elections, maybe that will get changed a little bit. Maybe we can right the ship a little. Um,
Mhm.
but as it currently stands, I'm like, oh man, I hate for him to have to join this.
I
Sadly, because
I
I want him to serve.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people. I think there's a reason that numbers are so low as far as recruiting goes and all that. I've got a buddy, Cody, who's talked about that a few times too. That's what he does. And it just numbers are super low right now. And it has to do with that, what you're talking about right there.
Absolutely.
I just and it's disappointing to see. It's sad to watch. Your story is you may say it's not like that interesting or whatever, but it's fascinating when guys you see that radical transformation in men's lives from where they used to live to what they are now. And there's a lot of people like that where it's just like you wouldn't even recognize me now if you knew me back then, but God has
That's
made
right.
that difference in our lives. And as we are pursuing this, it's got me thinking about biblical manhood. What is it? How how would you define biblical manhood? What is your answer when somebody asks you that question? What is a
Man,
biblical man?
I love that. I love that question. And I could talk to you for an hour about that. And I hear so many responses that I would disagree with.
Mhm,
So I'll talk to those in a minute. Let me try to answer you as succinctly as I can. I would say biblical manhood is being a protector, a provider, and loving your wife the way Christ loves the church.
mm,
Period. That's it. Protect, provide, and sacrificial love. That's it. Um, I think a lot of people add a lot to their answers,
Mm-hmm.
and they add a lot of good, noble qualities. Say like, a man is somebody who keeps his word. A man is somebody who's honest, who has integrity, who does the right thing. And you did ask specifically about biblical manhood, so that was a slightly different question, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, but all too often, I think people give answers, and I'll call them Sunday school answers. They give answers that, well, wouldn't that also describe a good woman? Right? If your answer to what is a good man, if your answer is somebody who does the right thing and who is honest and who has integrity and all these good sounding qualities, I'm like, how's that different from describing a good woman? Right? Aren't women supposed to be honest and have integrity and do the right thing?
Yeah.
So I think to really answer your question correctly, you've got to answer what's unique, what's uniquely different about a man. And I think that's where it's protect, provide, and sacrifice, right? And we think Ephesians 5 and, husbands
Mm-hmm.
love your wives as Christ loved the church. Well, how did Christ love the church? Well, he gave his life for the church, right? So it's this sacrificial love. So when I think of biblical manhood, I think not only the protect, provide, peace, but I think it's the sacrifice piece. It's the lead, right? It's the initiative. It's the
Mm-hmm.
you go first.
Yeah.
As the husband, as the father. If there's danger involved, if there's risk involved, you go first. If there's comfort and reward involved, you go last.
Mm.
Right? You
I like
you
that.
eat
Yeah.
last, you go to bed last, you get up first. That's just some good qualities, I think, of sacrifice, of leadership.
Mm. That's really good. I like that. You kind of pinpointed. It's going to be an excellent little clip there that you provided, because I think guys are, and I wonder. I'm going to ask you this actually, as I'm thinking about it as we're talking here. Is, let's say a guy he wants to do those things. He wants to grow in those things. Maybe he never learned those. Maybe he didn't have a good role model. Maybe he's just hearing this for the first time. Where do you start? Like, how would you recommend a guy start in doing these things?
Oh man, that's such a good question. I would say there's probably a lot of different good ways and places for a guy to start. Probably not just one right answer to that. So I'll kind of throw a couple out. I think two things just kind of immediately rise to my mind here. So I'll go with these. But first of all, is I think we have to read.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think we get to use the excuse, I'm not a reader. And I think as men and as men, specifically men who have a family, if you're a man with a family, then you're called to be a leader. And leaders are readers. And so you can't say, I'm not a reader. That's not an acceptable answer. That's like saying, I don't brush my teeth. I'm not a toothbrusher. It's like, well, it doesn't matter if you think you are. You need to brush your teeth, you need to floss, and you need to read. So I think that people who have told themselves for years, "Oh, I'm not a reader," and they've given themselves that narrative, and then they start to fit into it and live it. They need to start telling themselves a better story. They
Mm-hmm.
need to tell a better story about themselves. Maybe it starts with, I haven't found any good books yet, or I haven't found a good book that I love to read yet. Maybe that's how it starts. And maybe you need to get, you know, a modern translation of the Bible and read the book of John.
Mm-hmm.
Read the book of Luke. All right, it's Christmas. Start with Luke. And who doesn't love a good story? You look at these books of the Gospels. Mark is the shortest. If you're not a reader, start with Mark.
Yeah.
These are tiny books. If they were published and bound by themselves, they would be little brochures, right? You can put them in your pocket. They're very short books. They're little biographies, and they're written about the most famous person that ever lived on this planet, the man who had the biggest impact in all areas of the world. He's revered by Muslims, by Hindus, by Buddhists, by Mormons, by atheists, and by Christians. Jesus of Nazareth. And you owe it to yourself to read one of his biographies. So back to your question, where does a man start? Man listening to this and who wants to be this man, where does he begin? I think number one is it's start reading. And, there's a million great books out there. We actually have a whole reading list on the Men's Alliance web page. On our podcast page, we have a book list. But I would just say for a guy who doesn't read, you got to become a reader. You can't take that as an excuse. Start with Mark or Luke or John, and then go from there into some of the great books on our list. So that would be number one. But my second part of answering your question, where does a guy start? I would say you got to get with other men as well. So you need to become a reader. You need to pick up a book. You've got to start reading to become a better man. But two, you can't do it by yourself, right? You're not going to become a better man in isolation, in a vacuum. So you've got to, it's a must. You've got to surround yourself with like-minded Christian warriors who are on the same path that you're on. And every single man, I'm 44. Some people think that's old. Some people think that's young, right? So it's all relative. So, even if you're 70, you can hang with a group that will think you're young. They'll be like, oh, you're just 70. Wait till you're 85. So it's always relative. So no matter what your age is, you need to find one or two older men who are mentors for you. A man who, let's say, for example, if you've got, I don't know, a teenage daughter, or you've got a daughter in elementary school, you need to find a Christian man who's got adult daughter or two, who's raised them already, and they're happily married to a Christian man. And that's the kind of guy you need to go up to and be like, hey, can I take you out for breakfast? Right? If you've been married 5 to 10 years, you need to find a guy who's been married 20 to 30 years. If you've got little boys, you need to find a man who's raised godly men. We've got to seek out these kind of people. They don't come to us. You notice, like mentors, it never goes the other way. These wise men who, with great marriages, who have done a great job of raising the next generation, they don't walk up to us and say, hey, sport, you look like you need help. How about you take me out for breakfast and I'll give you some wisdom? That doesn't happen. So it's incumbent upon us to go get what we need. And so I think a part of that as Christian men is we need mentors. So go get them. Go to where they are.
Definitely.
Where are they? They're in church. Go find them. Go get in a small group. Go get in a men's group and get to know some guys. And so you get the ones that are your age, that are on your journey with you. And those offer a very certain type of support when we're going through struggles, especially, and they help keep us on course. Then we also need the older guys who are our mentors, who can give us that wisdom that's only found through lots of experience. So I think that would be my two best recommendations for a guy listening who's like, hey, I love this message. What do I do? How do I get started?
Yeah.
One, you got to start reading. You got to start reading the great books, Christian books. Don't waste your time on anything that's not a great book. Read the Gospels. Read some C.S. Lewis.
Mm.
Read some Greg Kokel, some Stephen Mansfield. There's a lot of great ones out there. So you got to start reading, and then you got to get out of isolation. You got to build your band of brothers, find your tribe, and go get your mentors.
It's excellent. I really, really like that. And I think as you start having these groups that you have, these tribe groups that get together, what are some of your recruiting secrets that you may have? Because it can be very hard to get guys to do it. What have you found to be effective?
Well, there is a great story. I don't know where I heard this years ago, but there's a story about a group of military recruiters that went to a high school. And the Air Force recruiter got up. It was like the whole auditorium was packed. You know, like the whole high school's in there for this mandatory assembly. And like the Air Force recruiter gets up there and he's giving this great sales pitch about flying jets for your country and, you know, seeing the world and all this great stuff. And then the Army recruiter gets up and he's talking about pride and country and the benefits and the GI Bill, and Navy recruiter, same kind of deal, right? The Marine Corps recruiter got up there and just in total silence, just stood there, not saying a word, just scanning the auditorium, just looking around the auditorium. And then he leans to the mic and says, I only see about 2 or 3 men in this entire auditorium that could even make it in the Marine Corps. You probably know who you are. Come see me afterwards. And he walked off. And, you know, I think a lot of churches and men's ministries are recruiting like the Air Force and the Navy and the Army in that story, right? Everybody's trying to sell us on, you know, what a great time this event's going to be, and there's going to be amazing food, and there's going to be a great speaker, and you know they're really trying to sell us on how great it's going to be. I think sometimes Men's Alliance follows the latter model, where our sales pitch, our recruiting secret, if you will, is we say, listen, we're going to be outside in the sleet flipping tractor tires. If anybody wants to join us, that's where we'll be. And I think that, you know, I can't speak for all men. We're all made a little different. But I tell you what, something just like something just like gets flipped on. There's like a switch inside of my chest, and it just flips on when I hear that. And it lights up, and it's like, let's go. Game on. If there were a bunch of different men's groups going on, and one was inside having coffee cake, and one was outside in the cold, bear crawling up a hill, dragging sandbags, I'm going to be in that group. And I don't know why. It doesn't make any sense. I can't explain it. It's just the way it is. And so I would say the Men's Alliance recruiting model is enough already with the good sales pitches, enough already with the dinners and the comfort and the great speakers. It's like, you know, I kind of want a challenge. I kind of want to be pushed outside my comfort zone. And that's what we do. And it's so simple, and it just really works too. So, you know, I've had pastors say, man, I saw you guys out there the other night. Holy cow, you know, it was cold and I saw dudes out there crawling in and I don't understand it, and I don't get it, and who wants to get up at 6 a.m. on a Saturday and go flip tires? And I'm like, I don't know what to tell you. Can't explain it. If it doesn't sound good to you, it's never gonna. I'm not going to try to sell it to anybody who doesn't get it. But the thing is, there's a group of us who get it.
Mm-hmm.
And, one of the ways I explain it to a lot of pastors who they have a guy, right? Here's what happens. A pastor has a guy in his church, and that guy's like me. And that guy hears this. Maybe he's hearing this right now. And he's like, heck yes, I want to start one of these Men's Alliance tribes. The call sign, the coin, the patch, the whole thing, it just sounds cool. Let's do it. And so he talks to his pastor. The pastor's like, I don't get it. I don't understand why anybody would do that. That's fine. We're, like I said, we can all be different. But here's the thing I have to explain to a lot of people. Listen, if you owned a restaurant, if you owned a buffet restaurant, you would put things on the buffet that you personally don't like to eat, right? Because you're a good enough businessman to know that while I don't like it, I know there are people who do. And the people who do, and they come here, they're going to want that on the buffet. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, you know what? Men's ministry is a lot like a buffet. We should offer a whole range of things, right? There should be a men's group indoors in cushion chairs having coffee cake, doing a Bible study. I'm all for that because that's going to reach men for Christ. Mm-hmm. But there's got to be more than just that, because for too long, that's been the only play in their playbook. And so all the men who would prefer to be outside seeing how many burpees they can do in a minute, there's nothing on the buffet for those guys. So that's how I view Men's Alliance is, hey, we're just putting something on the buffet that up until now, there wasn't anything for us on the buffet. Mm. And I think there's a lot of great pastors out there that they recognize that instantly. And they're like, well, this ain't for me, but this is absolutely reaching the men in my church. I saw an email, one of our tribesmen, he took a screenshot and he sent me an email that his pastor had sent to the church staff. Pastor sent this to the whole staff and had CC'd this guy on it because Men's Alliance was pretty new there. And he said, it was him talking to his church staff, and he said, I asked so-and-so today at 1:30 p.m. if he could get some guys from Men's Alliance to volunteer to help us staff one of our Christmas Eve services. He replied to me at 3:30 p.m. with every position filled for the whole service with Men's Alliance guys.
That's awesome.
And what this speaks to is when you wake men up and you get them in the game, mm-hmm. you wake us up and you get us off the sideline and into the game, you've just mobilized an entire army of men for your church now. Mm. So I really view Men's Alliance as it's a fuel additive. It's a force multiplier for a church. The pastors that have tribes at their churches love us because they've seen this. Like that pastor sending that email, he saw it for the first time and it blew him away to the point where he had to send this email out to his whole staff, because it just doesn't happen. Because usually to get men involved in your church, it's like pulling teeth.
Oh yeah.
Right. And we've all seen this, and usually they've got, the typical church has two things for men to do. You can stack chairs or you can direct parking. Right. We need guys to stack chairs and we need guys to direct parking.
Yeah.
And once a Men's Alliance tribe has woken up men and it's got them in the game and it's got them engaged and it's got them like leading devotions for the first time, and they realize I can lead a devotion, and they start learning how to share the gospel and learning how to answer
Mm-hmm.
what they thought were difficult questions, man, you can't stop them. Now you've got this whole army of men who want to get more and more and more involved, and they start starting things. They start starting new groups and community groups and small groups and outreach groups and going on missions trips and helping, repair things and build things. So I think a big aspect of this whole conversation is we're in a culture where not just in church, the men across the whole country are by and large, we've all fallen asleep at the wheel.
Mm.
We've all kind of checked out. We're in our lazy boy. We got our laptops and we're ordering food on Grubhub. Right. And it's just this whole thing of we're just so disengaged, we're checked out. And I think a part of the way, just a part, I'm not saying it's like the silver bullet magic remedy, but it's a part of it. Part of the way you get guys to close their laptops and get engaged in their family, in their community, and in their country is you got to get them out of their comfort zone.
Mm.
Both physically, you got to, for most of us, guys that are in our 30s, 40s, 50s, and it's been a long time since we set our butt down in some wet grass to do some sit-ups or some flutter kicks, man. It makes us quickly remember high school sports, right? We're like, oh, I haven't done this in a while. Oh, there's that cold water, right? And you get guys remembering, hey, you know what? You're not that old. You're not that broken. And it's pretty dang fun. But the best part is it builds a band of brothers. You start to create this this atmosphere and this environment of a shared physical struggle again. And it's like, man, I'll tell you what, you can go to a church for 10 years and say, hey, every Sunday to the guys in the foyer over the cup of coffee every Sunday for 10 years. And you're not as close with those guys as you are your tribesmen who you just, swung a 30-pound sledgehammer and ran around the church carrying a 50-pound sandbag with. You see that guy in the foyer next Sunday, he's your best friend. Your wife is going to be the one trying to get you to get to the car instead of the other way around, right? Most churches in this country, the guy's in the car, like texting his wife, hurry up, honey, I want to go to lunch. Men's Alliance tribes, we see having the exact opposite effect. Now we got the guys have a band of brothers that they haven't had since they were in high school. You can't pull them out of the lobby. It's where all their best friends now are. So they're hanging out talking after church, and we got all the wives in the parking lot honking the horn. So the bigger picture here is this is not just fun. While it is fun, it's not just fun. We're not just doing this, for grins. We're doing this because it's necessary. It's absolutely necessary. You know that middle-aged men in this country are the leading demographic for suicide. We're the most isolated. We think suicide, a few years ago before I learned the statistic, when I thought suicide, I thought depressed teenager.
Sure.
No, it's the married guy with the mortgage and the wife and the kids and this very well-crafted and well-maintained facade that everything's fine. And he's completely isolated. He has no friends, no close friends. He's got his 2 high school buddies that don't live in the same state with him anymore. And he hasn't been real with anybody. He hasn't really shared what he's going through with anybody. Nobody knows his struggles. He's, probably addicted to either a painkiller, an alcohol, or pornography. Maybe he's poured himself into work and he's got a work addiction. We've got all these things going on with our demographic. and we're completely isolated. So
Mm,
it's fun to make that band of brothers, but it's also necessary because
sure,
it's addiction recovery and suicide prevention, um,
sure.
all in one. And all we needed was we needed to get outside and get uncomfortable and struggle together physically through some sort of fun, crazy workout and actually get to know guys again, right? And so that's why
Mm,
our motto in Men's Alliance, our motto is tribal, rugged, real, right? And we talk about each word, how tribal being the opposite of isolation, rugged, the opposite of comfort zones, and real, the opposite of that facade that we used to wear. So
mm,
that's what we're about. And that's kind of the larger picture of why I think this is so important and why I believe every church in this country should have at least
yeah,
one Men's Alliance tribe, and big churches should have one every night of the week.
that's excellent, man. I love what you're doing, what you're saying there, what you're telling guys. I mean, the discomfort that leads to a community of guys who embraces that together can only make a lasting difference for not just communities, but I mean, even larger in their walks with God and their passion for living out their faith together. Um, it gets me excited about what you guys are doing, and I hope it gets other guys excited too. And I think if somebody wants to reach out to you, where's the best place for them to do that?
Oh, man. They can email me at info@men'salliancetribe.com, info@men'salliancetribe.com, or they can go to our website, men'salliancetribe.com, and check it out there. So
Excellent.
we have a team that just is on standby that helps guys launch tribes in their area. So it's not something that, we're throwing you out there, good luck. No,
Yeah,
we've helped we've got 67 tribes going right now. And so we're starting to get pretty good at this process of helping just like-minded dudes just like us around the country. We're helping start these tribes all over.
that's excellent. That's awesome. I hope it just continues to grow. I think what you guys are doing is much needed, especially in our society now, our culture right now, who just kind of mocks anybody who does any of what you're talking about here. And I think that just tells me we need to embrace it even more. So I hope it's successful. I hope you get some more guys that want to get involved and interested, and I'm hoping churches too that will embrace this model and get guys who are kind of feeling like they don't belong in there to be a part of something that they can rally behind together. And I think what you guys offer is that resource and that community for them that they've been looking for. And I really, Dave, I really appreciate you coming on, man. It's been
Thanks,
really,
Justin.
really fun. I've really enjoyed what you're saying here, and it's been challenging to me as I'm listening to you talk about these things. It's great.
Great, man. Well, hey, thank you again. This has been great. It's been fun talking about it.
Yeah,
I can talk about Men's Alliance all day. So thanks for,
excellent.
letting me come on your show. And we'd love to have you on the Men's Alliance podcast as well,
Sure,
talking
man.
about Be a Man.
Sure, man. I'd love that. Okay, one more thing before we wrap up. I
Yep.
end each one with giving you an opportunity to give the guys a simple challenge for the week.
Mm.
It can be something
Mm.
grand, enormous, or it can just be something simple, off the cuff. Uh, Interesting enough, I've done, I don't know, we're getting close to 100 of these, and none have been the same. So
Wow.
here we
Oh,
go.
man. Well, now I feel like I'm probably going to be the first guy to give you something
All,
unoriginal.
all the
Um,
pressure.
okay, so I know exactly what I want my challenge to be. And just for the record, I did not prepare anything ahead. So this is completely off the cuff if you're listening to this. Um, okay, here's my challenge to every guy listening to this. Lead your family in one short devotion this week. You do not have to be a pastor. You do not have to you don't have to dazzle. It doesn't have to be impressive. All you do is this. You say, hey guys, while you guys are all here at the table, I have one thing I want to share with you, and it'll only take about 2 minutes. That's how you start. Super informal. They're already sitting there. And then here's step 2. You say, I know I'm not perfect. You guys know I'm not perfect, right? They're all going to laugh. So I've messed up a ton, but that's okay because we're all sinners. I've messed up just like y'all have, right? Now you've just taken all the pressure off of yourself, right? You're not up on a big stage with a spotlight on you. You're right there sitting around with them, right? And then just simply read them a couple verses that have meaning to you. Share with them something that you find personally impactful. So that's it. Just say, hey guys, let me share one short devotion with you. I know I'm not perfect, but that's okay because none of us are. Here's just a couple verses that really mean a lot to me. So maybe start with your favorite passage in the Bible, or go reread your favorite story this week, and just give them one short nugget. That's my challenge. Lead your family in a very short devotion. Keep it like 2 to 3 minutes. And then you know what? You've just checked a big box, because just because it doesn't last long doesn't mean it's not impactful. And who knows, you might start a brand new tradition in your home.
That's awesome. That's a first, man. I love it.
All right.
Yeah, you're good. Yeah, guys, go lead your family, lead a devotional. It's you need advice, reach out to us. We'd love to help you with that and give you some more tips if you need it. And it can feel awkward. It can feel weird sometimes if you've not done it before, but it's necessary in, like you've been saying all along, to lead your family, especially in the ways of the Lord. And I think there's nothing more important than that. And guys, I hope you've enjoyed this. Man, Dave, I really appreciate you being on. It's been fun, and hope to have you back sometime. Got more questions I didn't even get to, but we can get to that in future. And yeah, anything else?
I'll just say this last thought. Satan uses the same lie on every single one of us. He's going to tell you that you are not qualified to lead anybody in a devotion. And you just got to know, like, that's his line. It's not original. He tells it to all of us, and we all have to reject that and say, yeah, you're right. I know I'm not qualified. I know I'm not perfect. Doesn't matter. None of us are going to lead anyway. So that's my closing thought.
Good. I really appreciate that. And guys, I hope you've been encouraged by this. I hope it encourages you to go and be a better man this week. Again, anything comes up, please reach out. We appreciate it. And thanks for listening or watching. Have a great week.